Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to this session. Today, we talk about personal branding with our friends at Valenze, a company that supports and empowers female football players in the development of their personal athlete brand. It's my pleasure to introduce you to Ireneo Snel, CEO and founder of Valenze, and Nikita de Haan, general manager of the company, and both alumni of our Master in Football Business in partnership with FC Barcelona. Well, it's evident that women's football has grown a lot over the past few years, and there is a big potential to grow even further. Many players are aware of the value that their personal brand can have, but they don't know where to start or how to develop their brand to the level of attracting sponsors or new businesses opportunities that fit their values. In this session, we will discuss several tactics and techniques that are easy to implement and will give you a head start in developing your authentic and outstanding personal brand. Before we begin, I would like to remind all the attendees that you can participate in the webinar typing your questions to our guests in the question tab you can see on the bottom right of your screen. And after the presentation they've prepared, they will answer your inquiries. In case you cannot follow the whole session, you will receive the recording afterwards, okay? So let's get started. Hi, Ireneo, Nikita, good afternoon.
Hi.
Nice to see you again, and thanks for your time.
Yeah, thank you very much, and thank you for the introduction. And it's already great to see that so many of you already joined. So that's a pleasure for us as well. And I would like to start with a little question to you guys to say already in the comments what your current job is and your dream job. I'm interesting to know that because, well, as Gemma already mentioned, we are mainly working in athlete branding in women's football. But I believe this webinar is valuable for everyone. Well, we're going to use some sports examples. So yeah, topic of the webinar, authentic and outstanding personal branding. And one of the examples that we're going to use, well, actually the main example during the whole presentation, isn't going to be an obvious example like Cristiano Ronaldo or David Beckham, for example, but someone else that we believe has an outstanding personal brand, Sadio Mane. Unfortunately, he got injured just before the World Cup, which was a huge blow for Senegal, because he's really a hero of them, right? On and off the pitch. So why does he have such a strong brand in our opinion? He's known and respected for much more than only his football appearances, and he shares a unique story that goes around his roots. It goes around his personality traits and his personal values, and around his actions. Of course, your story is different, but still, it can be just as unique and authentic. We use Sadio Mane as an example to unravel several steps of how to develop your authentic and outstanding personal brand. And we're going to discuss some of these benefits of having such a brand, like partnerships, for example. Does anyone know, by the way, who is Mane's main sponsor? We're going to come back to that later. But first, Nikita.
Yeah, well, so as Ireneo already mentioned, Sadio Mane has a very strong personal brand. And that might also be the reason why some of you are here today, because you want to build an outstanding and authentic brand for yourself. Yeah, Ireneo also mentioned already that it's not only for athletes, because a personal brand is important for everyone. So this webinar will be interesting for you anyhow. And today we're going to talk about the importance of personal branding. Why is personal branding important? And we're going to walk through the whole personal branding process. So how do you develop your brand? How do you communicate it with your audience? And how can your personal brand create more business opportunities for you? So let's take a look at personal branding. You might have heard of the term before. Maybe you haven't really thought about it. Maybe you think personal branding is not really for you. But the truth is that everyone has a personal brand, if you like it or not, because a personal brand is how people think about you, how they see you, what they say about you. So if you don't work on your personal brand yourself, other people will do it for you. And the problem with that is that they might create an image of you that doesn't really, well, that's not a good representation of yourself, your identity. So one of the benefits and one of the reasons of personal branding is that you want to be in charge of your own image and your own reputation. And another reason could be exposure, because well, as an athlete, but also as a non-athlete, you want to be seen. You want to show that you're a good player on the field to increase the chances of a transfer, maybe, or you want businesses to notice you because, I don't know, you're looking for sponsorships or other business opportunities. And a personal brand really means that you have a unique identity. You have strong personality, strong values. And with those, you distinguish yourself from others in your field of work, from other athletes or anyone else. And that's a reason why businesses will want to work with you. But it also increases your value. Because let me ask you this question. Who do you think has a higher value? Is it someone that's unique, is different, positions herself different from others, works on her personal brand? Or is it someone that maybe just posts some pictures, but present herself the same as everyone else? Who do you think has a higher value? Probably the one that's different, that stands out from the crowd. And that's what personal branding is all about, to stand out from the crowd. Job,
Yeah.
maybe.
If you look here, for example, we can see it at Manet, because you're saying to stand out from the crowd, and you're already mentioning social media as well. Like, the reputation is not only about what you're saying and what you're posting on the social media, but it's basically everything that you are doing on your day-to-day life. And if you look at Manet, on and off the pitch. So here, for example, in this photo that's taken of him, there's not a social media photo that he posted, but he shows his humbleness and his down-to-earth personality by just a small gesture with thanking the fans with his hand towards his heart. And you can see that these kind of things also influence his reputation, get to his exposure, and also already increase his value. But sorry to interrupt you, Nikita. Go ahead.
No worries. Yeah, so no, it's Sadio Mane is a great example, and the benefits we already mentioned are very important, and they're very maybe focused on athletes, but also when you're looking for a job, or maybe you're an entrepreneur. A personal brand, strong personal brand, can be super valuable, because with a personal brand you can build you can build a sort of authority in your field of work. And with that we mean you can show your experience, your knowledge, your expertise, and with that you can build trust, what is probably makes people, well, maybe more likely to offer you a job or become a client of you. So personal branding has a lot of benefits and a lot of reasons why you should work on your personal brand.
Exactly, and with knowing these key areas already and these benefits, it might got you thinking now, okay, but where and how to start? So let's go into that a little bit more. So first, we call this authentic branding, right? Authentic and outstanding personal branding. That means that we want you to be 100% yourself. You need to be authentic, because in the end, that's the only thing that's feasible on the long term, and something that creates also the strongest and most real connection with your audience. Like a media hype, it can gain you, for example, short-term popularity, but in the end, personal branding is a lifetime process. So you need to be able to keep doing this on a consistent way, and eventually, that's the only way on how to do that long is by being yourself, right? So when we think and we talk about an identity, we talk about multiple dimensions, because you won't build a strong brand with only being good at your job. Of course, it is a part. We call this the on pitch or on the work floor, if you wanna put it in a different scene. But here, for example, your skill set, your behavior in work situation, and your integrity with your job or the company, they're all part of this dimension, and they all influence your identity and your brand. Another area is the off pitch or out of the work floor. How recognizable you are, how your interaction is with people, with fans, if you're an athlete, and also your involvement in sustainability, for example. They're all part of this off-pitch dimension. And eventually, you use your marketing to gain visibility and also move towards commercialization. And these are parts of your personal marketing. And the most important thing here is that all of these dimensions, they need to be in line with each other, because you want to provide the same experience of your brand on each of these dimensions. And something that's already very much related to this are your core values. And for your foundation of your brand, you should define like 2 to 3 core values that are most important for you. You choose the ones that fit best to you, but also make sure that they are easy to understand by others, that they are easy to recognize, and that you can explain them easily. Sadio Mane, for example, if we go back to our examples, he shows in everything that he does, but it is also really one of his core values that he wants to give back to the people with less opportunities than he has. Like in this picture, for example, he is as an ambassador of Right to Play. He empowers girls to have the opportunity to play sports as well, which is already his value of caring about people of his background into action, right? Because he is active as an ambassador. And yeah, you can see also his values, that his roots that are very important for him, and it also comes back in a lot of his communication. But before going to communication, let's go
Yeah, exactly. Because yeah, if you know what makes you unique and authentic, and well, you want to communicate that part of you to, well, to the world. But before you do that, you really need to know who you're talking to. So who is your message aimed at? Who is your target audience? And that question that can be more difficult than you think, but the most important thing is that you really understand your target audience. Not only know, okay, I target my fans, for example, but really understand them. Where are they from? How old are they? What are they doing in their daily life? What are their interests? What are their needs? In order to communicate with them, you really need to understand them. And when you do, well, then you can communicate your brand story, your authentic story. And you can do that in a few different ways. And we're gonna talk about a few. Well, of course, the first one, social media. We all know it. Most of the people use it, and it's an easy way to reach a lot of people. You can interact with people, engage with people, even build connections, like real relationships with people without even seeing them. Social media has a big potential and is one of the ways that you really be in charge of your own image. The same as a website. Maybe not everyone has a website, but it's a really important tool to create your image and to communicate who you are to the world, where you're really in charge of. But yeah, also to be socially involved, because social involvement positively affects your personal brand.
As Sadio Mane again, right? Because I just mentioned that before already with Right to Play, which is a perfect example as well of his social involvement. But Mane does much more though. He builds also hospitals and a high school in his home village, where you can see again his roots that are important for him, but also in connection with his social involvement. And he's also acknowledged for his social work, which gives another boost to his brand. Like what you can see here on the picture, for example, is when he won the Socrates Award last year, which is an award given by the same company as the Ballon d'Or for his social work. Back to you, Nikita.
Yeah, we're gonna refer back to Sadio Mane a few times as an example, because it really creates a picture of everything. And as Ireneo mentioned before, he's a great player on the pitch. His performance is very important, and of course that's also very important to his personal brand. And the same is, if for the non-athletes here, it's like what you do on the work floor is very important for your personal brand. But it's not the only thing people look at, because they also look at your behavior towards other people. If you go back to the athlete sphere, is it like your how you act around, towards opponents, maybe your fans, how you interact with your fans, the character you show, maybe even statements you make. They're all actions with which you can communicate your identity, your personality, and your values to your audience. And yes, Sadio Mane, for example, in the after the Super Cup final in 2019, he called over a ball boy and gave him his shirt. But he also, I think it was this season, he admitted making a handball while he scored against one of the games against Bochum, I think it was. So he really showed his that honesty is very important to him, and that he's very down to earth. But next to, of course, the on-pitch performance is important, but what happens after the game? Maybe of interviews, could be a post-game interview, but also interviews with journalists or podcasts, or in those interviews you answer certain questions in a certain way, and the way you answer these questions also influence the way people think about you. And this is not always easy, especially when there are emotions involved, but people need to be aware that when you have an interview, you're always on, and everything you say can create an image in other people's minds. But luckily, you're not scripting everything you do, and I think that's a good thing, because those non-scripted things you do are probably the most authentic ones, because that's when you really yourself, when you really show who you are, and what's important to you. If we're going back to Mane as an example, because he's such a down-to-earth person, and he for example, he helps the members of the staff offload the bus while most of the players walk by. Or I think it was after one of the games, it was still in Liverpool, after one of the games, 2 hours after the game, he was seen at the mosque, the local mosque, helping cleaning toilets. So his religion is very important, but he's such a humble and down to earth person, and he shows that in all those non scripted occasions where maybe he doesn't even want to be seen. And the last I want to mention is the business relationship, because we mentioned it before as a benefit, um, and it is. But we really have to think about the relationship itself, because your personality and your identity runs through all the relationships you have. So if you have, for example, a sponsor, um, the way they do things, the way they operate, what they do, can influence and affect your personal brand as well, in a positive and a negative way. So before you connect with a business or another partner, really think about how that relationship could affect your personal brand.
Exactly, and going already towards these business opportunities. Great bridge. But first, now a little summary. So you build your brand by defining your identity and putting your core values on paper, and through positioning, and then eventually through your communication. But this is not the end result of personal branding. In the end, you want to translate this, right? You want to translate this to these business opportunities to get an extra income stream or get a job. So, about business opportunities, we're going to focus today just on two different ones. One is actually what Nikita just already mentioned, sponsorships, and the other is entrepreneurship. Yeah, basically, as Nikita already mentioned, this is influencing the brand as well. But well, first, when I'm talking about sponsorships, by the way, I'm talking also about brand ambassadorships and endorsement deals, because we put this all together as sponsorship. And you think maybe sponsorship is not that important for me, but a lot of people in different areas of in the sports business are involved in sponsorship deals. Maybe not as the one to receive it, like an athlete, or well, if it's an influencer on any other industry, but you can also be on the other side. So you always have to think about the common values that a sponsorship needs to have. Basically, what Nikita just mentioned as well, because it's very important to match with your brand because of the influences that partnering up has on each other's reputation. Because companies, they don't just sponsor athletes to generate more sales, but they often also sponsor to relate their name with you. And therefore you need to stand out. You need to have a clearly visible common value with that company, because that's also the way that you can find, well, now I'm talking to athletes mainly, but if you think it also from the other side, to think what kind of athlete do you want to support as a company. Let's go back again to Sadio Mane to see who his um, main sponsor is, and it's New Balance. Maybe many of you thought, hey, that should be Nike or it should be Adidas, but actually, New Balance makes a lot of sense to be Sadio Mane's main sponsor, because it's a company that also shares the same core values as him, like integrity, and they also investing in inclusive projects, just like Mane. And basically, if you think back at everything that we've been talking and everything that we've been saying about Mane, you can see it makes a perfect fit, right, between these two. And then looking a little bit wider, um, not only at sponsorships or a little bit out of sport business, basically in every industry, you you need to have a personal brand to to get most out of these opportunities, like entrepreneurship, but also like for finding a different job that you would like to have. Let's take Elon Musk as an example, because his risk taking and innovative thinking inspires many people. They follow him first, not the companies that he founded, but they follow him. And he really takes people on his journey. And that's something that you also would like to do. That's something that you want to achieve as well. Because eventually, the connection that you make with other people, that other people can identify themselves in you, that's what gives people the reason to buy from you or offer you a job for that matter. Let's talk a little bit about what we do then exactly at Valenze, so you can see how we translate all of what we've been speaking about into athlete branding for female football players.
Yeah. So, well, of course, well, we work in personal branding. That's clear. But and in this webinar, we already talked about all the positive things and the benefits of personal branding, and we may have focused a little bit more in the examples of football and athletes, but it truly is for everyone, because personal branding is all about taking a certain position in the minds of people. And if you take a position, a strong position, well, compared to other people in your field, whatever your personal goal is, but if you have a strong position, you will win, and you can, well, get that. Well, you can reach that goal that you have. You become more interesting for people. To be honest, I see it myself when I started to work on my personal brand. I got more following, but also more people that see that you're doing well, that you're, well, what I said before, the authority you build, you can see the difference. So personal branding is really, really important for everyone. And we really see the potential and the importance of personal branding, especially for female athletes. And that's why we started Valenze. And at Valenze, we help female football players with their personal athlete brand. And yeah, we do that with our authentic program. My thing doesn't work. We have an authentic athlete branding program. And well, that program focuses on building the foundation for their personal athlete brand, their authentic athlete brand. And for those athletes that are really committed, motivated, invested, we also offer some additional services like brand coaching, in which we coach them in one-on-one sessions, which we can give a little bit more advice and well, share our expert opinions on their brands. We can help them with their marketing, and with image right representation, we actively help them with finding a sponsorship, business relations. So yeah, I think, well, now you guys know more about personal branding and what we do. So maybe we can go to some questions.
Exactly. I didn't see any questions in the chat yet.
Not yet. But yeah, let's get them some time to think on questions. I will start with some, and maybe we can start the debate from here. When we talk about top athletes, okay, it's very usual that agencies or community managers take care of posting the content in social media on behalf of the athlete. Would you say is it a good practice, or should be the athlete who manage their social media to preserve the authenticity you talk about?
Exactly. Let me take this one. It's a combination, because athletes, they are struggling with their time, and agencies can help with the professionalism of it. but the athlete should be in charge of what is posted, because if a company or an agency or whichever company is doing it for them, they lose that authenticity. So if an athlete, for example, what we do, because we also offer it as one of the extra services that we can help them with. But first we build their athlete brand, so it's built by them, so they have exactly in mind what they want to post, and then it's only like the work to do it on the to create the post, let's say. That is something that a company can help them really well with. But yeah, I'm not saying that they shouldn't hire any of those agencies, but I think they should think first really well about what their identity is and what they want to achieve with their brand.
At least
Yeah,
sorry, Nikita, at least they should be informed of what the community manager is going to post, or the agency, right?
Yeah, that's for sure. And I would even say it the other way around. Like, the athletes should inform them what they should be working on, because then they are still in charge, and then they can show more their authentic personality in these posts. Because otherwise, it's still going to be the same marketing idea as that agency maybe has for another player, and they're like, okay, yeah, there's a good thing that worked for them, so I should try that with her as well.
yeah.
But
It's also
maybe it
about
doesn't fit at all.
the tone of voice. I mean, people will notice if it's not you posting it, because if people really know you, they know how you are in real life. So if you, I don't know, use a caption or do something different way that doesn't fit you, they will notice. So yeah, you should always be, and that's why we offer our program in the way we do, is because you need that foundation to do it yourself. Actually, that would be best. Yeah.
Okay, we've got the first question from the floor. Patricia says, my son is 17 years old and looking for sponsors for inline skating. What is the best way to approach the possible sponsors?
Yeah.
Exactly. Here, it's a good question, because it's something that's not easy to find sponsors, especially in inline skating. Like in football, it might be a little bit easy, but it's also not that easy. But in inline skating, maybe even more difficult. So basically, what we've been saying, what he should be doing first is building his brand, because there are more athletes looking for sponsors, and he's not only competing with other inline skaters, but he's also competing with all other sports that are looking for
Other athletes.
that are looking for sponsors. So he wants to stand out from these ones, and therefore he should first look at what makes him different, what are his values, what are his core values. And then if you go towards the communication and having this visible for a little while, then you can look for potential sponsors. When we do this process with athletes, first we are trying to analyze which companies have similar values, because a lot of athletes usually think, okay, what do I need most? And because we're working with football players, they most of the time think, okay, I need boots because I need to play, and this is my gear. So in inline skaters, I can imagine that first they think about sponsors of their skates, so they think about companies who produce them. But that's not necessarily the one who is gonna be sponsoring first. So look at other type of companies, like think a little bit outside of the box, who are maybe in a total different industry. That doesn't matter, but that they have similar values and similar goals as you. And then you can send them a private message with something that you can offer them that is interesting for both parties to start a collaboration. I hope that.
It's difficult. The sponsorship sales process is more complicated than you would think, of course, because it is very different steps. But as what Ireneo said, is a very good base and foundation of what you have to offer, because in the end, if you want to find a business to make a relationship with or partnership with, you need to know yourself, you need to know the business, and you need to know what you can offer the business in return. And if they can see, okay, this is a very unique person, with maybe an audience and values and all those things that fit our business, and they can help us reach a goal, then there is a fit. So there is a lot of things to think about, but what Ireneo said is a very good start.
Mm-hmm. And in line on with this question that Patricia asked, she said that his son is just 17 years old. So I wonder when should an athlete start working on his or her personal brand? Because nowadays they are exposed very early, and as Nikita said, when you are young, you can react with emotion, but then you are already building your personal brand. So you when you get older, you will be remembered or what you did or what you said when you start on your sporting career. So when should an athlete start working on the personal brand? What would you say?
Yeah, it's funny because, well, as I said, your personal brand, everyone has it. Even if you're 16, 17, everyone has a personal brand. So, I mean, some people start really late with building their personal brand, probably when they're maybe 24, 25, because that's the moment they start thinking about it and realizing what it could do, but also what it could have done. And that is maybe too late, because it could have, well, given you so much more early in your career, and especially in sports, your career starts very early. So 17 years old is not too early to start with your personal brand. It's actually maybe a good moment to start thinking about it, and to well, especially to be aware of that every action has consequences. That's what people say. But yeah, that everything you do affects your personal brand, how it is now, but also later.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. And on the last part, like if people in the future remember what you said and did as a 12-year-old, for example, and I don't really think that makes the big huge influence if on the long term, if he said something bad at a young age, or is posted somewhere. But there are like also in football some players that posted something when they were a kid on the social media that they got some backlash from that when they were older, when they moved to another club,
Exactly.
for example, and then they had said something bad about that club when they were a kid.
Yeah.
So just the awareness, when Nikita says, yeah, that may be the most important at such a young age.
Yeah.
And then like professionally working on your brand, maybe around 17, 18. That's, I believe, point to start at. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And also there are some topics that are considered taboo or controversial. Nikita said that she already mentioned when you are in front of the media or in some sponsor events that you have media there. So it comes to my mind questions about politics, religion, sexuality, maybe, to put just some examples. What is your advice? Should an athlete be free to express his or her opinion on everything, or is it better to avoid certain topics?
Avoid controversial topics. That's what I would advise to the athletes, because that is the thing what can give them more backlash. Unless, for example, well, I don't know if it's controversial, but standing really for the equal rights, for example, which is a big topic nowadays in women's football as well.
Mm-hmm.
Like in some cultures, yes, it is considered as controversial, and others not. And if you are honestly someone who really fights for these equal rights, then I wouldn't say don't say anything about it, but just be aware that some people in some areas of the world might find this controversial. But yeah, of more political things, I would say avoid it in such. If you can avoid it, it's better because then it won't at least go bad on your image.
Okay, Jonas. Are you afraid that the athletes' agencies overlap your work? I mean, aren't there more and more agents who are also responsible for personal branding, finding sponsors, finding carry table projects, managing the social media, etc.?
Exactly. Now, this is something that, as our company, we are struggling with quite a lot, to be honest, because a lot of agencies, they are offering also similar services, but what we always say, it's actually what Gemma's first question was about, if it's good that agencies make these posts, and what we see is that they help more on the marketing side than really on the branding side. So that's what we try to do different and try to do more specific to help them really build their personal brand. And then what we think even is that we can work together with agencies because we can do a more specific part of their process, which eventually will benefit them a lot because their players get a stronger brand, which increases the value of their players, which get them more potential sponsorship deals, which eventually is extra income for the agency. But yeah, what I see now is that a lot of agencies feel threatened by what we do and therefore try to just keep the player for themselves. But in my opinion, it doesn't need to be so. I think we can work together.
Okay. I think you made it already clear that personal branding is important for athletes, but it's really important for any professional who wants to stand out. I remember one of my professors in university saying that in your professional career, they may value your curriculum, your resume, but what is certain that you will be remembered for your work, your reputation, and your values. I think it's an important message to be always on mind, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah, no, definitely.
Yeah, for sure. I mean,
so it doesn't matter if you are an athlete or on top or someone who starts a career or any professional.
It's any professional. I mean, I don't know how it's for everyone, but like if I'm on LinkedIn, for example, and I read messages of people that they're posting like weekly about a certain topic, I really see them as someone that knows everything about that, and they stay on top of my mind because I see them all the time. So for me, maybe I don't know most of those people really, but for me they're like they have authority, and I see them as important people in the field of work. So even if you maybe it's even pretending a little bit, I don't know, because of course they really have the knowledge, but you really can create that image without knowing them. So yeah, it really helps to reach more people, to build your network, and it is for everyone. Whatever you do, in whatever field you are, you can connect with the right people.
And talking about female football players, what do you think that they can take from the male football that they can apply to make women's football grow faster or better?
That's a good one, because a lot of people they compare men's and women's football with each other, and actually this is the time in the growth process still of women's football that they can do it different. So instead of looking at what the men's did, look at the time that they are now, and with, for example, other opportunities to go immediately to the OTT platforms, for example, for broadcasting instead of through TV deals, which is the main revenue stream for men's football. but it doesn't need to be that way for women's football as well. So I'm not saying that this is the one that they should be doing, but I would look at it a different way, that they should think about different options than like the traditional business models that men's football have. Because in the end, money is what drives the growth. So the investment need to come. But I think women's football is a bit different sport than men's football, and therefore also attracts different people that want to invest in the sports. So copying probably will only stop kind of the growth, at least the exponential growth that it has right now.
Yeah, and it's funny, yeah, because it's a funny question, but the women's football has, well, Ireneo already said a little bit, a very different audience than the men's sports. So they also want to see different things. They expect different things, and you see that the female players also act differently than the men's players, and I think those differences make it, well, it's actually a strength for the female players. So they should find the strength of the female sports to not be the same, but to be better in those ways, and to, I think that will help them grow, to find, well, you have to listen to your audience, of course.
Sure. Okay, guys, I think we don't have any more questions. I don't know if you would like to. Okay. No.
Just one coming in, because you said there were no anymore.
What can you advise when the athlete, like, for example, my 19 years old nephew, who is a top field hockey player, is a introverted and modest person who doesn't use social media? That's a good one.
It's a very good one.
Yeah.
I actually wrote a blog about it. I posted it on last Monday about introverted football players, but athletes, because it's a thing, and I think we hear it a lot we hear it sometimes in conversation we have with players, that they don't feel comfortable with it, and I think also it's like, some people, when they think about personal branding, they think about influencers and being in the spotlight all the time, and that, I mean, the whole webinar was about authenticity. So if you're an introverted person and that's not you, why would we advise you to be someone else? So what we try to say is that even if you're introverted, even if you're not that comfortable with always being in the stories and in the spotlight, then don't be, but you can ease into it. You can start slowly. You can, as long as you know what's important to you, show that. So yeah, maybe it's good to read our blog, because there are some tips as well in there. But yeah, it doesn't mean you cannot, well, create a strong personal brand. It's just how you build it. It's about how you do it.
Exactly, and going more in the personal interactions with people, because as you saw in the basically in the dimensions that I was mentioning as well, the social media is only a very small part of the marketing dimension even. So it's not everything. So there's a lot that your nephew can do
for sure,
to build his personal brand without having to use a lot of social media. Still, I would advise to use social media a bit, just because you can create your own storyline. Because if you look at other media, it's always someone else telling your story, and you might get another story out than you actually want to tell. And with social media, you have total control of it. Same as having a website, for example. But yeah, social media is cheaper.
We saw sometimes sponsors stopping sponsoring an athlete because they did something wrong or whatever. Would you advise to do the same with an athlete that is not that doesn't agree anymore with the image of the sponsor he's sponsored by?
If an athlete should say, I stopped their sponsorship.
Yes.
Well, definitely yes. If the company is doing something radically different than that they were doing first, because if they partnered up before and the company didn't change anything, then it might have been a doomed partnership already from the beginning, because the athlete did not do his research to see if they had common values. But if the company suddenly does something different, then yes, he should definitely stop that partnership, because it influences his brand as well. Because being linked with such a company that doing bad things that is against his own core values, and people will see that and they will think, okay, so what he is doing is fake. So it will really have a bad influence on your brand, and also on your authenticity, actually. Because at least the perception of your authenticity, because maybe you're still the same, but because of your relationship with that company, people will perceive you differently.
Yeah. It's a good question, by the way.
I asked the question because normally the sponsors is paying the athlete, and it looks like they have the power, the proper powers to do anything, and sometimes it could be that it would show that the athlete has his own character and his own opinion about him.
Maybe to legally stop the agreement, probably there it's not the easiest part to do for the athlete, but if the athlete has the opportunity to do it, and you should look for all the ways to have that opportunity, then stop that partnership.
It's a good question, because I don't think people, when they sign a contract with a sponsor, they don't realize this. So it could be really good to be aware of this and check the contract on an option to unbind it in those kind of situations from both sides.
Okay, guys. Now, yes, I think we can leave it here. We don't have any more questions. And if anyone has some doubts, I'm sure that you, Ireneo and Nikita, you will be more than happy to assist them. They can contact you on your email that they see here. And I would like to thank you again for your time. I wish you the best luck for the future.
Thank you.
Thank you. And thanks everyone for coming and watching the webinar.
Exactly.
Thank you, guys. And on behalf of Johan Cruyff Institute, I would like to thank everyone for attending the session. As usual, it has been a pleasure to see so many people connected from all over the world. And as I mentioned you before, you will soon receive a link with the recording. And we invite you to stay connected and join us for another webinars that can be also of your interest. Keep an eye on our social media channels, where you will find all the details. Thanks again, and see you soon. Bye.